I picked up just some really cool mask shit, and that all this, dude, $1 a piece at Bedrock. Yeah, Bedrock's just liquidating shit like crazy.
Yeah, I think that maybe
the days of the floppy are done, dude.
I've been saying that the comics were going to die for years now. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to like see the signs that you might be on to something. For me, it was just like a logical thing. It just doesn't make sense that people would keep buying comic books, especially floppies. But now I'm actually starting to see, like, you go to a big chain like Bedrock City and they're liquidating trades for $1 to $3 a pop. Yeah. So that shows me that there isn't any demand for those trades, or they'd be selling them online elsewhere. And I keep thinking back to CDs. I had a big old bunch of CDs, and I was going to take them to work and just give them away. I figured, there'd be some desire for these things. And I struggled to give away my shit. I couldn't even give it away. So if people are so used to digital options that they don't even want physical copies, that they'll refuse it to them if you give it to them free. And again, you look at Bedrock, if they're selling trades for $1, $2, $3, that's nothing. That's like quarter bin prices, right? Yeah. They're not making anything off of it. It's just to turn some kind of profit at all. So they're not just outright throwing it into a recycling bin or something. So if we're at that place, how long does the floppy really have? The audience is fucking aging, man. You're not buying hardly any comics anymore. I'm still buying comics because, I'm still trying to support the medium because I still want to support the creators that are putting out the books that I want to buy materials from, but not the degree I used to. I just don't have the time. And so knowing how much money I spend in a year on comics, because I know I spend 4 figures a year on comics. Easy.
I'm lucky to spend $50 a year.
If I can get under $100 on my monthly purchases, just the pre-order, just stuff I order through mail order. If I can do that, I'm doing well. So that's a minimum of $1,200 a year. That's not counting when I go over, which is pretty routinely, especially when I buy one of those high-end books like the $50 or $150 collections and stuff. That's not counting the shit I buy at shows. So,
well, I thought that's what you saved most of your money for, was for the shows.
Well, I saved the money, but see, I'm not buying comics as much at the shows. I do buy comics, but most of the money I'm spending at the shows is on commission. So that's not affecting the comic industry necessarily. But I do buy, depending on how much I'm enjoying the show, it really is a gauge of how many artists I like or at a show. Because there are a lot of artists I want to get commissions from. Just the act of juggling the process of setting up a commission and getting that started and following up on it and making sure the pieces come in, it's time consuming. So I don't have a lot of time to actually go dig into the bins. And I don't like digging through the bins on Saturday at all because it's just too damn crowded. Too many people. It's too much of a headache. So usually Friday's about commissions. Saturday is usually about hanging out with you guys or whoever's with me. And then Sunday is about collecting commissions and going through the bins. So if I never make it to the bins, then that means that there were too many artists and I just never had the time. If I'm actually digging into the bins most of Sunday, that means that I wasn't happy with the people that showed up at the show, or I'm not getting a lot of commissions, or I don't have any other side stuff. And so I've got nothing better to do than dig in the bins and wait for my commissions to come in. So, but I do still spend a good amount on back issues, but I might be more and more in the minority in that front because so much stuff is available online now.
Yeah.
For free if you're going to illicit Russian sites and stuff, or you got Marvel Unlimited. DC's finally rolling out their option, although it pales so much in comparison to Marvel Unlimited that I think that.
Well, but what about all the TV shows?
Right, but a lot of people were complaining about how you're going to curate a selection, they're going to rotate out, and they're kind of pissed off about that. I think I understand DC's logic. I think they understand that Marvel Unlimited has killed Marvel sales to some degree. I think that's one of the reasons why Marvel sales tanked. Was it's so much easier, especially for guys our age. We don't have to read the comic first time it comes out. As soon as it comes out, we like to binge, like a Netflix kind of situation with the comics. And so we can wait 6 months and read a bunch of books, or we'll wait 2 years and read a whole strip of them at once, wait till the whole thing's over with and read it that way. And so I think that's hurt Marvel sales. And then DC's trying to get into that action. But the fact of the matter is, I think that I don't think the shops are going to die because I think there's still going to be a place for specialty stores because people are still going to want to buy
boutiques, of course.
Yeah, they're still going to want like a Spencer's. They're still going to want the novelty aspect. But as far as going into a comic shop and buying floppies on a weekly basis, I still. And so while I think Marvel is taking a temporary hit, their monthly sales are being hurt, I think, by Marvel Unlimited. I think that they'll continue to have Marvel Unlimited subscriptions, and I don't know if people are going to jump into DC.
Well, no.
in the near future.
I have to interrupt you. I think the difference between the two is Marvel's playing the long game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what they're going to do is their clientele will see it as no more than a Netflix, a Hulu, where you're just like, it's $5, who cares? And then I know people who have Netflix that don't watch Netflix. They pay for it every month, and I ask them, well, do you watch your Netflix? Oh, it's there. I want to watch it. Do you watch it? No. I'm like, holy shit. I watch nothing but Netflix or Hulu or YouTube. Like, I make sure I get my money's worth. But there's people out there that literally, if it's under $10, it doesn't bother them that much.
Right.
It doesn't affect them. So Marvel in the long game is like, well, yeah, we're selling product that will be selling to the same client for 10, 15 years, who might use it, who might not use it. I think that's a smart game. Now, I think it's cool that DC is. I still think that Disney's going to do something kind of DC-ish, where they're going to do a channel for Marvel movies with Marvel shows with Marvel comics. I hope not, but I think they might go that route depending on how successful DC's is. I'm just not wowed by DC right now. Mm-hmm. Like I told you earlier, I sent you a text where I was so fucking angry.
Now we're getting, because I wanted to explore this topic a little bit more, but okay. I know that you're going to want to talk about that, so I'm not sure if I should just let you dive into it now. No, we'll finish up. We'll come back to it in a minute then. Here's my issue. DC is smarter in the sense that by doing the curated selection, by still pushing people to buy digital copies and pushing them to buy floppies for as long as that's possible, you're still producing content. The problem I have with the Marvel model, and I think they're going to get there before DC, and I think that's going to be the coffin nail in the industry, is Marvel's going to reach the point where they're making so much money off the movies and the merchandise and the back catalog, they're going to stop producing new content. If you're not producing monthly comics to make a certain amount of money,
I think they'll always move forward.
Why would they? What's the point? Why would you spend the money it takes to produce monthly comic books when you could just have a few curated high-end?
Because you still need to hook the young. I'm sorry, man. I don't see a 17-year-old kid wanting to go read 90s comic books. That they don't care. They need something that's going to hook them now. They're going to need something that is relevant now, that they're going to want to read. They're not going to give a shit about fucking Doctor Strange from the 70s. They don't give a shit.
But why would?
But if they have Strange running around with techno swords and shit like that, they're like, well, that's kind of cool. That's what I'm into. I don't believe that at all.
Why are you producing a comic though? Because the properties are already there.
Well, they don't even fucking draw them anymore. They do them on a fucking iPad and publish them off a fucking iPad.
But again, that's the problem though. Why are you producing new comic books though? You can do all that stuff through live action, through animation. Why do you bother to produce a comic book anymore?
Oh, they're always going to do a comic book, dude. They're not always going to do a comic book. It's an easy way. It's an easy way to get your product into someone's hands.
It makes sense if you're independent. It makes sense if you're a smaller person. It doesn't make sense for Marvel as a corporation.
No. It is. It makes perfect sense because if you're so they're going to want to sell toy. Well, toys need a story. Now you can do a cartoon. Problem with the cartoon is it's limited to how you can get it to the consumer. If the consumer can't have that cartoon, they don't know about your toy. How are you gonna put that story in their hand? You're gonna give them a fucking piece of paper with a story on it.
No, you're gonna give them a fucking blockbuster movie.
No, you could do that too. But the problem is you're assuming that they can get that TV, that movie there then. It's cheaper and faster to give them a comic book to sell that toy, that t-shirt, that lunchbox. It is easier. It's cheaper. Because the movie, if it tanks, guess what? You lose on both ends. If the comic book tanks, it didn't cost you anything. You just don't make the toy. If the comic book hits, then it pushes your toy. Now, I told you this a long time when we first met. I always felt that there's going to be a point where the stories are going to narrow out and it's not going to be as fun as it was when we were reading. And there was all kinds of wild shit like Evil Ernie and DC and fucking Vertigo and Max was coming out. Like, that was great. That golden period is kind of petered out to a point where now they're kind of trying to find stories. Dude, I'm telling you, the metal thing, fucking furious about that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and...
Okay.
My last point is that I think what you're going to see happen, and we're already seeing overtures in this direction, I think what's going to happen... Why is my levels are low compared to... Okay.
My point is stronger?
Yeah. Is that I think that they're going to license out the Marvel Universe to other publishers, be it Boom, IDW,
Disney does
whatever.
not do that. Dude, you do not know the mouse then.
The mouse does stop. No, that's bullshit.
They love doing everything in-house.
No, but that's just it.
If they don't do it in-house, they buy your house.
Yeah, and they have a stake in Boom through Fox, for instance. But the thing of it is, Disney hasn't produced their own comic books in years. They shut down other comic books and they've licensed all that shit out now. I think it's just another form of merchandising to them. There's no reason for them to have in-house comic books when they could just fill that shit out to another publisher, let them go through all the headaches of all that stuff, and still hold on to the IP.
But they're very no. The mouse is very weird about it.
Show me the fucking.
I will show you.
Where's the Disney comic books out there then? No, they don't produce any of that shit themselves.
No,
dude.
they do animation. No, dude, they buy. If they see something that's successful, they'll buy it and then run. That's why you see Pixar.
But that's why you're not going to see comics because comic books aren't successful.
You see Pixar movies competing with Disney animated, computer animated films. Where, like I told you, I saw Wreck-It Ralph and I thought it was a fucking Pixar movie, and it's like, no, it's Disney. I couldn't tell, but they really, dude, trust me. I have some friends that are fucking Disney acts, and they'll tell you all kinds of shit. The way Disney works.
Well, they can also tell you that's fine.
Disney loves doing everything in house.
Right. But it doesn't make sense to do comic books. It's just fucking licensing, and they're not producing comics. They haven't produced comics in years. So,
that's why you buy Marvel. That's why you buy Marvel, who makes their comics.
Marvel doesn't make Disney comics. They outsource that shit.
No. Well, they make their own comics. I don't think there's a real place for Disney comics. Just like I don't see how people still make Archie comics.
And that's not
like,
true either.
Disney
comics are some of the biggest things in like Europe and stuff.
No, maybe so.
For instance, okay, Bongo's shutting down. I don't know if you knew this.
Who?
Bongo Comics is finally shutting down.
Okay. Oh yeah, the Simpsons.
Right now, and they're like stopping just a few months short of 250 because the Fox deal was going through, and so they told them wrap this shit up because they're not going to deal with Bongo's bullshit being like you said they like it all in house, but they're just going to license that shit out. Simpsons still does extremely well in Europe. It's not really a big thing here in the States anymore, but it still does well overseas, and so they're just going to fucking license that shit out to somebody, probably with some of the same talent even, and they're not going to deal with it because it's not worth it for them to have all these publishing houses.
The only way I see your view happening is if the Marvel product loses its luster and its shine. Like people don't care anymore, where Disney doesn't have time to deal with it anymore, and they have to focus on their parks and their movies and stuff. But I don't see that happening in our lifetime because it's such a fucking easy product to sell. Because there's always little boys born that are going to be fucking 15 years old like when I was, that are going to love those shiny little toys, that are going to buy into it. And their dads are going to pay for it. And their dads are going to get nostalgic, and they're going to go and want to read that 90s comic book, but the kid won't give a shit about that comic book. That kid wants to read something new. I just don't see it happen.
That's the problem. I don't think they do want to read something new. I don't think they give a shit for the most part on comic book.
I don't know, man.
There's so many people that
when we went to the shops, there was a lot of young kids there picking up comic books. Now, they're not picking up, when I looked at, they're not picking up shit like I would read. I'm like, I would never read that. They're picking up like I've not read an X-Men book in fucking ages that I can think of. They were picking up like X-Men books and stuff. And these kids, I would say, I was hanging out with Fryho, I would say they were between the age of 15 and 18. And dude, they were dropping some serious coin, dude. I think that one kid in front of me spent like $48. I'm like, damn, on floppies? Like, I couldn't imagine spending that much on floppies. But I mean,
I sure did back in the day.
No, but see, again, you had a box. These kids didn't have boxes. They literally walked into that shop and were buying at that shop. Mm-hmm. They didn't. It's not like the guy came out and said, "Oh, here's your your pull list." Yeah, it was like, let's grab books off. That's something I thought that was dead, where people were buying books off the shelf, and these kids were buying them, and they all had quite a few. So I think they're still fans. I don't think it could be dead.
All you have to do is walk into a Bedrock City, and you can see, as long as there's comics on those shelves, it's not dead. Once those shelves come down, it's dead.
Yeah, but see, they're smart now, where they put the toys next to the T-shirts, next to the lunchbox, next to the comics, and out of all those, which is the cheapest to buy?
Yeah, Bedrock is diverse. Bedrock will outlive everybody else here in town.
NAMS will be around forever, dude.
But they just do comics and gaming. So
that's a niche. It's a niche.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see floppies ever completely fading out, because it's just such a cheap way to get your product out there. Because you're looking at terms of like, we need a story.
You don't need a physical
but there's
book. It's
kids,
an artifact.
There's kids out there. It's
just
still
like
easier.
You don't sell a physical album anymore when you can stream it off of YouTube. You know?
Yeah, no, it's true. But it's still easier to produce and put a piece of paper into someone's hands than it is to go and produce all this.
No, it's easier to produce it and then make a digital copy. There's no reason to have the physical artifact.
Comics are too easy to do, man. Too fucking easy.
I don't know, man. But anyway, but I think we run this one into the ground. Why don't you rant about metal?
Well, no, because you fucking told me, oh, Fixit. I think you're going to like metal. It's right up your alley.
Well, so I went. I thought it was kind of a rock and roll badass
and God
book.
Bless the public library, because for some reason I ordered all the fucking metal books, and they all came in at the same time. So I had Road to the Metal, Knights of the Metal, Resistance of the Metal, and Metal. So it's 4 fucking trades. I knew I was in trouble when I was reading Road to the Metal, and I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like,
so what is happening in Metal?
From what I can, okay, so I'm gonna say about this, out of the 4 books, and I'm gonna say Road, Knights, Resistance, and Metal. The only decent one was the Knights, because that's like
4.
Yes.
So you're done with it?
Yes.
Okay. So
well, actually, I'm going to be honest.
What the fuck is Metal?
I literally, the last 5 pages of Metal, didn't read it. I was so fucking tired. I thought it was so fucking stupid. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I would rather slam my nuts in the door right now.
Okay.
Anything else.
What the fuck is it? Tell me what the fuck Metal is.
When Grant Morrison wrote his story where Batman got hit by the fucking dark side beams, and he was launched into time, and he became some kind of time bomb.
Which, P.S., by the way, I always thought was fucking dumb as shit.
Okay. So So if we're gonna plant on shit, trust me, we're getting a shit tree, and that shit tree gonna produce shit fruit. So
Scott Snyder pulled a Jeff Johns on Alan Moore, but with Graham Morrison.
yes, basically yes. So because Batman went back in time, became a time bomb that created the Tribe of the Bat, some dark force in the dark recesses of space, the DC universe. No, I think this is actually there's like the multiverse, and then there's like this dark area of the multiverse.
Shit, so this is actually taking place in the court, like continuity?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so, because it's like in the dark. It's in the dark spot. Some Batos or some fucking weird villain sees Batman and decides to bring all these Batman type from the different verses together. So you have like
it is a multiversal aspect.
Yes,
there's an Aqua Batman, Wonder Batman.
There's a Doomsday Batman. There's the one that laughs or some Joker Batman, a Green Lantern Batman. I'm trying to remember. There's several of them. Now the Night book was actually pretty decent. It had different writers in it. It was pretty good. Because some of them.
Yeah, what was Dark Knight's metal? I don't, because that was also a prelude.
Well, that's the one where you get the one who laughs. He's going through all these different multiverses, trying to pull these Batmans out of their universes to come battle with them or be the Knights. So you get to see like the Doomsday Batman, the Wonder Woman version Batman.
That's
the Aquaman was actually kind of cool. I like that one. I thought that was a good story. That was by it's a writer that I'm Frank Terry Frank.
Yeah, Frank Terry.
Yeah, Terry. Yeah,
guy used to do Wolverine.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Or Thierry, maybe I don't know.
So that book, if you read it like an Elseworld, which I did, I read it like an Elseworld. I was like, that's kind of cool. Just stories from different parts of the universe. They're all getting together. Cool.
But I will say this: that's where they lost me immediately. When I was like, because I'm already Batman phobic at this point. I'm just tired of Batman stuff. I hate it when the DC universe is defined solely by Batman. I think that's the major stumbling block of the DCEU, is it being so Batman centric. So when you're telling me you're going throughout the multiverse and finding Batman flavored versions of other DC heroes, I'm already off. You've already lost me.
Oh no.
But you're a Batman fan, so.
No. I'm a Batman fan in the sense where he's fighting crime.
Yeah.
When he's some fucking mystic
Batman.
god, I'm like, yeah, go fuck yourself. So I'm at the fuck you level with DC right now, because I'm like, this is so fucking stupid.
But you like Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's on Batman,
but again,
right?
But this is the mistake I made with them. I love Capullo's artwork.
Yeah.
Dude's designs were fucking amazing.
He was born to do Batman.
The character designs are fantastic. Though I do think they're somewhat a ripoff. Okay, I'm sorry. The one that last laugh is like a Batman Joker hybrid that has these robins on chains that scream Crow. And immediately I thought, well, it's nice to see they ripped off Age of Apocalypse, because that's what Sabretooth did with Wild Child. So that's so new. Yeah. I'm like, cool design, DC, but I've seen this before, and actually theirs was cooler.
Yeah,
but
I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, I think that if you haven't done anything with it in 20 odd years, then you've got it's fair game.
Again, but then the designs, I loved his Aqua Batman, and her name is Bryce Wayne. I thought that was kind of cool, because her stories where she's like manipulating her body. It's just someone. If you're gonna read one, I would read that one and leave it alone. Well, this is for anybody else. If you're gonna read, I would read that one and just leave it at that. So the road is basically just showing you how they're connecting all this bullshit together to create this story. So I'm like, okay, and they're talking about the 9th metal and the 10th metal and the 7th metal and this metal, and there's a bat metal, I think, and fucking
the
tampon metal. I don't know. There's just like all kinds of fucking weird metals.
FYI, in case it's not you're aware of it, Nth metal is the metal that the Thanagorians and Hawkman uses,
and he's a crucial part to the story.
Yeah,
because apparently now he's the world's greatest detective, because he's been around for so long.
More so than Batman.
Apparently, I guess, because he's been collecting, because he knows of this darkness, and apparently the metal vibrates and all kinds of weird shit. So I get through Road. Hold on, I get through Road, and I understand that you're supposed. I'm trying to read them in the order, but I hate jumping between books. I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna plow through a book and then I'll piece it together in my head. I started reading Resist. No, I read Knights, and I was like, okay, it's getting better. I think it's gonna go in a good spot, good place.
Okay, so Road not so good.
Knights was a little better.
Dark Knight's better.
So I'm like, okay, I can get through this. So I go through Knights. It wasn't too bad. Some of the stories are okay. I mean, some of them are good, some of them are okay. I can't at the top of my head think of like a bad one, but I mean, for the most part, I'm trying to think, the ones that stuck to, I mean, the Green Lantern one was kind of cool too. They have this nice little ending where they end up leaving their realities because they realize that he who laughs last, whatever, is the one, he's right, or they feel a kinship to him, and he's trying to lead them to go do the darkness because the light is so evil. So anyway, that was okay. Then I get to Resistance.
What is the deal with Resistance?
It's the other characters like Nightwing,
the guys who are directly involved with metal.
Freeze, hangs out with like these ice giants. I stopped halfway through that book because at this point, I was at this point. I'm like, dude, this is really dumb. I get that this is the tie-in stories,
cash grab.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't. This doesn't feel crucial to the story. I'm gonna go ahead and just walk away from this one. I got through halfway of it, and I was just like, it's dumb. I didn't enjoy it all. Walk away from it. So I'm like, all right, well, Metal probably is gonna be Metal. Like, it's gonna be Metal. Let's start reading it. So I started reading Metal, and from what I remembered from the other, because I was trying to read them all back to back.
So what?
I was hold on.
Before you start. I understand the basic premise. You got this evil dude, and he's he's a Batman fanboy.
Well, okay. So I have to add more. So there's this serpent, and there's an anvil that creates universes, and the universes are destroyed.
What's the point? Why is Metal? Like, what is
that's it? That's it. It's a special metal that's created. I'm
dude's looking for metal.
Well, no. Okay. Again.
That's why I need you to boil it down for me. I don't know what the fuck the shit is yet.
So I'm trying, dude. It's
so
okay. Look, this is
okay. Metals or what?
So this is what I see it. This is Snyder trying to do a Vertigo book, because fucking even Dream shows up in this book, which I was like,
I remember he had to get like special permission from Neil Gaiman, or he did as a sign of respect or something.
I was like, at that moment, I was like, okay, there was a little bit of fuck you coming out of me already. I'm like, fuck you, what? Dream is showing up? Like, he's gonna help Batman and Superman.
Why does your book rate bringing in?
Yeah, it's like, why are you trying to bring in Vertigo feel to this, like an adult feel to it? I'm like, okay, so there's a serpent that destroys, that goes to an anvil that rebuilds, and all this bullshit. And there's like this metal, I guess the anvil's made of again, but there's like a seventh metal or an nth metal, and then some other kind of weird bat metal.
Get that all the metals do different shit, but why does I'm gonna call him Bauhaus. I don't know who the fuck guy's name is. Bauhaus, who's the Batman fan, cosmic Batman fan. Why does he want these metals? What's the plan?
They're trying to bring. I think they're trying to bring their world into like the dark. You have to fall. I'm assuming from what I can remember, there's like a line that they have to fall below before darkness engulfs the planet or engulfs the universe.
For access by contaminating our universe with darkness.
Pretty much.
And the metal helps them to darken our universe.
Yes, and the metal's the key. And of course, Hawkman he figured this out. He found the portal. He went through the portal. Hawkman, you'll love this. So Hawkman had found.
How's Hawkman?
Oh no, he's alive.
But no, they killed him in a miniseries like a couple of years back, if I recall correctly.
Well, they come back, dude. They say the metal. That's part of it. It's no longer a curse. It's the metal.
So
somehow it's bringing them back.
Hawkman back from the dead.
I'm assuming.
And now he's an expert on all the metals. And so
he's knowledgeable. So he has a mountain where he has the challenges of the unknown.
Challenges of the unknown, sure.
Like all these fucking weird, like what are the Blackhawks or whatever the dudes in the plane?
So okay, that's right, because they spun off all the Dark Age of Heroes books out of this event.
Okay.
So that means Challenges of the Unknown. You've got
you know all
Damage.
This shit.
No, I don't. You've got Silencer.
Well, basically, he brings all these groups together.
Yeah, these new heroes.
New heroes. He brings them all together back in the past because he's investigating this, and he has a notebook that has all this information in it.
I've been making fun of those guys because DC made this big point where they wanted to try to do artist-driven books again, because ever since the Chromium Age, it's been forbidden to do comics that are geared toward fantastic artwork.
Yeah.
And so they launched all these titles with guys like John Romita Jr. and Jim Lee and one of the Kuberts. In the credits, they list the artists first, and they're talking about how it's the Dark Age of Heroes with all the cool dark artists, and it's just like the 90s all over again. And not unlike the 90s all over again, all the fucking hot artists bailed almost immediately. And so it's just been like these other guys who have to carry these books. And I don't know if any of them have gotten canceled yet. I know that some of them got truncated from ongoings to miniseries, but it seems like that whole launch faltered. And the only one that people seem to really like is Sideways. They're one Spider-Man wannabe that Kenneth Rocafort's doing.
So I was trying to keep notes on these books as I was reading them, because I didn't want to. I know people are going to attack this, like, oh, he didn't get it. Oh, he didn't understand. And I'm like, no, this is fucking garbage. Okay. I was writing notes. This mountain appears. They go to the mountain. Red Tornado's in there. I guess he was part of the group.
Yeah, I was aware they were doing something with which was another reason for me to jump on.
So Batman is there, but Batman has stolen the anti-miner, some kind of weapon. He had Superman hide it in the basement of his fucking
Fortress
of Solitude. So he told Batman's like, don't ever look in here, but I gotta leave some here. And so this, I believe it's like something that has to do with the anti-monitor, like his brain or his dick or some bullshit, some kind of machine that's
his foreskin.
His taint is like sitting there, and it's the taint of the anti-universe. And so Batman knows all this dark shit that's going on. He's not letting anybody everybody know. He Hawk.
Oh wait,
Hawk.
Okay, where's the plastic man egg come into this?
I have no idea, dude. I thought it was a sex egg.
He's a Benoit ball.
Yes, I'm trying to remember. Maybe that was in Resistance, and maybe I should have finished Resistance, because I'm like, apparently now this is gonna, because I know you know a little bit more about Plastic Man than I do, but apparently he was bonded with some kind of element that makes him susceptible to all these metals, and that he was having evil thoughts, and he turned himself into an egg because he's in constant battle with himself because he's afraid he's gonna go evil.
Okay,
so that's not a fuck you moment for you, because I'm not very.
It's a fuck you that they went through the trouble of bringing Plastic Man into the story just to have him be an egg for the whole thing. Apparently, yeah. But he's always had darker inclinations. The whole point was he was a reformed criminal who would occasionally have little,
all I know is from the cartoon with Hulu, the baby and the blonde chick.
Right.
That's all the Plastic Man I know.
30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's all the Plastic Man I know. Yeah. So he's a goofy.
Bad luck hula.
Yeah, so that's all I know. And I'm sure people are like, oh, well, dude, I was writing little notes to the point where
you had to.
I got to see
notes to keep up with what was going on.
Well, no, because if I talked about it, I wanted to be able to try. First I was gonna
podcast.
I was kind of thinking like, if we talk about this, I wanted to at least be able to piece together what I'm reading.
Okay.
And as we get there, you find out that Superman, Batman kind of turns on everybody because he's trying to take care of this on his own because he's a loner. And he's captured. He's teleported, and he's captured. I want to say by the He Who Last Laughs or something. They put him in some kind of machine that's going to start this evil thing. And apparently, there's a passcode between Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. And I'm trying to remember the letters. It's like 2 letters. So like if they do these 2 little letters, it's like SOS. So it's like if I do BW, it's like find me, or it's a way to avoid being trapped.
They have their own Morse code.
Yeah, like their own Morse code, but it's only amongst them 3. And I remember reading it, and I was like, this is really stupid. Like this is really dumb. But I'm okay. I thought they were trying to do that whole Grant Morrison kind of a goofy funness, but it was so dark. It was like there's nothing fun about this. So Superman he goes full Boy Scout. And he's like, we can find him, we can get him. So they break up into groups. It's Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl, and I'm jumping a lot because it's bad. Hawkgirl and Wonder Woman are in one port. Aquaman and Deathstroke. So there's little places where there's like nth metal somewhere. So Atlantis is like the tomb of the first king or some bullshit. Turns out to be a portal. Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl go some fucking land of the dead, I think, or I can't remember. It's some bullshit place. Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and the fucking egg go to War World. Was it Birdland or Thanagar? They go to Thanagar because apparently Thanagar is phased out of the universe. That's why no one can ever see it, and they're able to find it. Mr. Terrific's able to find it. And Batman, of course, is trapped, and then Superman and who was rolling with Superman? Can't remember who was rolling with him. He somehow I should have kept my notes. Well, there's a reason I don't have my notes though. So they find out that if they use the Phantom Zone weapon and some kind of sound wave bullshit, they can jump between worlds and they'll find Batman and Superman. And for the love of me, I can't remember who the other character is with him. They find Batman. Batman's in this warped world where they have like all these bodies. I'm assuming they're all like JLA, like from the different universes, all linked up like a power battery. And it turns out that Batman was trying to warn him not to come to him, that Superman was the actual battery they were trying to find. And he gets attacked by these versions. And at this point, I'm just like, this book is bad. This book is bad. This book is bad. And Batman pulls out an infinity gauntlet with different kryptonites, like the gems.
You sent me that in a text.
And I sent you, and I'm like, DC, fuck you. We're done. Done. I'm fucking done. I will not read any, I don't know if I can read Snyder shit anymore, dude. That was so fucking stupid. Like, it's
actually a giant sized gauntlet. I think it's like the gauntlet from Dark Knight Returns or something.
Yeah, and he's like, one of these kryptonites makes you sparkle and one turns you to dust. I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, I think this book got away with the artwork. Like, when I saw the cover of the book, I was like, that looks pretty fucking cool. It's like some kind of dragon with a Joker's face on. I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't know what it was, but the artwork, there's one of those things where the artwork hooked me. I'm like, dude, artwork looks great. I think I'll be into this. And the story was fucking garbage. Like, and the funny thing is, I've seen his stuff on like Facebook and stuff, and I don't know, dude. I don't know. I loved when he wrote Court of Owls. I thought it was a great concept. I loved when he did that whole story arc until fucking Gotham was under the Riddler's command or control with like some kind of fucking game where he's killing people. That's when it started getting. I was kind of like I don't get this anymore. It's getting kind of stupid. This is full stupid, man. He went straight stupid. At that point, you find out that Hawkman had turned into some kind of guardian of the Anvil, and when the Anvil was dark. Clark and Superman and Batman are gonna try to free, like they try to find the goodness in Hawkman because he's this giant hawk creature with a big.
Why does Batman have the Infinity Gauntlet? Why does he need to punch out Superman to get him away?
He's battling the Superman. Yeah,
or does Superman get contaminated by the darkness?
No. Well, no. So I believe Batman is battling like the versions of Superman, evil versions of Superman.
Okay.
There's like 2 or 3 of them, and for some reason he's old too. Batman is old, and they started linking to like because he went back in time. There used to be these tribes of the bird and this and that, and because Batman went in time, now was the tribe of the bat, which kind of threw everything off. And because he did that, this demon in the dark universe saw him with like a beam of light, was drawn to him, and was using him as a way to bring down. I mean, this is like very non-Batman story. Like this is straight up. Let's make a normal human being like the center of the fucking. You have gods, and none of them mean anything. It's all about Batman. But it gets stupid there. Wait a minute, we're not there yet. So I'm going to skip a bunch of stupid shit because it's just stupid. And they jump into the anvil, or they get to the anvil. They turn Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl find Batman and Superman. They somehow change Hawkman's mind where he's trying to help them. He's getting the shit kicked out of whatever this big bubble god or whatever he is. Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman then, I believe, jumped into the anvil. This is where I started kind of tailoring it off the start. And come back with the 10th metal, where it's this shiny ass metal on them that lets them battle and destroy the darkness.
Oh god!
And they're throwing
fractal tech gear. They came back with fractal tech gear,
I guess. And they're throwing.
I'm joking because you remember Total Justice back in the 90s.
Well, hold on, wait. Let me finish. No, hold on. They're throwing like these little blades at other characters, like because Aquaman and all of them are getting their asses kicked, right? And the blade will hit them, and all of a sudden they are covered in this shiny gear, and they're able to kick ass. And they're basically like peppering them with 10th metal, and they're fighting back. You know, the Flash, all of them are now winning where they were losing. And at that point, I threw the book on the ground and stopped reading. I picked it up a day later just to look at the very end, like the last, because I was just like, this can't be real. Like, it's going to be a dream or some shit. Like, I'm going to get to the very end and I'm going to be like, you know what? Like, it turns out that Bruce Wayne was in a coma or some bullshit. Like, this is all a dream. It's a joke on me. And it's Bruce Wayne explaining to Superman, Batman, how they're going to build the Hall of Justice. And then I was like, fuck you twice, DC. I'm not picking up a DC book for a very long time. I don't give a fuck who's writing it. Like, that was such a fucking horrible. And I really want to read that fucking Doom, the Watch Doom or whatever, Doom Watch or.
That's you.
I just want to read that.
Please feel free to read Doomsday.
No, but that one I'm going to write no, I want to read it just because I want to see how they kick the shit out of a dead horse. It's now just dust. Like, how are you going to squeeze it?
My understanding is the book's about like Mary and Ed and all these other people. It's not even about the Watchmen characters.
Really? Is it? This was such a bad train wreck that I want to see. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It was so bad.
Here's one of my big problems.
I have the books here if you want to flip through them.
By the way, Fractal Tech Gear. I don't know if you remember Total Justice, the action figures.
The artwork is great.
I'm not that into the artwork either because I think Greg Capullo. The reason why I liked him on Batman is because it restrained his more elaborate inclinations.
His Spanishness.
His Spanishness. Yes, is not a bad way of phrasing it. And so it's nice to see that unhinged quality in the characters that need to be unhinged.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is sort of reasonably normal.
Again, the character design, fantastic.
But see, I'm looking at this and it's just like, it's very Image, it's very Devil Horns Metal. But what I was pointing out to is, okay, Total Justice, the toys when they came out, they didn't have faith that the superheroes on their own were toyetic enough to get over to the kids. So they took the DC heroes and villains and they gave them these snap-on translucent armors so they'd have like projections of their power and they'd have like power functions and shit. And the Fractal Tech Gear was stupid. The kids didn't really care about it. The adults threw that shit in a bin because all they wanted was their superhero figures without all the dumb snap-on shit. And yet, it seems like DC keeps doing this shit where all of a sudden their heroes turn up in power armor. A previous example would have been the Justice miniseries that Alex Ross did, where it's not enough to have the DC heroes being cool. They got to give them these redesigned armors that are very toyetic to save the day.
Told you.
They're all silver, so it's kind of boring. The DC heroes with silver trim and sharp stuff sticking out of them. I also noticed that Batman apparently signed off on hitting the Batman Who Laughs with liquid nitrogen and letting the Joker cut off his fingers.
I got to that part, Because, that's the best part. You know why? Because the man who, the whatever last laugh, he's just like Batman. So Batman can't really defeat him because they're on equal ground.
He's Batman
so then,
and the Joker. Oh!
But then the Joker comes in and he's the wild card because he can't think like the Joker. And so the Joker, at one point, Batman tells him, don't ever tell anybody about this. I'm like, oh my God, they really wrote that down. Like Scott Snyder sat there and said, that's a good line. That's a great line. I stake my career on this line.
So Batman was like, well, I'm okay with chopping off this dude's fingers, just don't tell anybody.
Oh, no. I'm okay with you being a homicidal maniac, the bane to my existence. But we're cool right now because you're helping me take out the Batman Joker mega mix, whatever the fuck the last man that laughs is, whatever the fuck he is. And I'm just like, I told you, I was thinking, please, let it be a fucking fever dream. Because again, and I kind of got spoiled because when I read Batman, when I read Superman, I didn't walk in and read all the garbage shit that you used to have on your shelves. I read the Alan Moore stuff. So when I read that stuff, I'm like, well, they're all like this. Like Superman is suffering from a fever dream and he's attacking, Swamp Thing. And like, I assumed these characters were always like that. I'm kind of going on a weird tangent here.
That's fine.
I got to this and I'm just like,
this whole book seems like a weird tangent, so it's kind of appropriate.
Dude, you just flipping through it. I got to the part where he who last laughed, I think, escapes. They showed up in the armor, and at that point, I'm just like, I think I have better things to do. Like, I can't think of what, but finishing this book is not it. So people can call me out on that shit all they want, but this is fucking garbage. Like, I wonder why.
I mean, I looked, it has like a long coda where it's guys like hanging out in suits and toasting each other and shit.
Yeah.
And I don't see that would redeem everything else that you've discussed.
Oh, no. And the weird thing is, I would go to a half-off bookstore, and I always wondered why I saw this book there already. Mm-hmm. Like, usually, and not the softcover, hardcover editions. And I'm not talking one or two. I'm talking 8 or 9 of them. Yeah. And usually, for them to show, it has to be about a year or so. Mm-hmm. And then even after a year, it'll be like, it'll take a while before it's at a price range where I'm like, $10? I'll buy that for $10. I'll buy that for $1. And I thought, that's really weird that book's here. Huh, that's strange. So soon. And then so many of them. But they were all sealed. Because I always wanted to crack one open. I was like, fuck, I'll sit down and I'll read it right here. But they're all sealed and, I couldn't open them. So I was like, I'll wait till I get them. I see why they're sealed. Now, I'm sure if you're a hardcore DC fanboy, you're fine with that. I'm not.
I don't know. Because I noticed there were people that seemed to be excited about Metal on its way as it was coming up.
Yeah.
But I noticed by the end, I really wasn't hearing people talking about it very much. So I'm wondering if it's not like a secret.
Fryhole told me he got through like a few pages and then he was just checked out.
I kind of think it's one of these deals where everybody just assumed we got Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo reteaming on this universe-spanning project, and people got really excited about it, and it actually came out. Because
I have a couple other buddies that read it, and I asked them what they thought, and one of them was like, no comment. Yeah. No comment. He didn't want to talk about it. And another friend of mine was like, well, it's what was his excuse was, well, maybe it's like wine. It'll just get better with time, when more stories come out with these characters. And I'm like, yeah, that's a cop-out. Fuck you. Fuck you and fuck DC, because that's a cop-out. Like, it's not going to get better over time, because apparently now the He Who Laughs Laugh, they're going to do a miniseries with him, which again, if they had done this as an Elseworld or something, I would have been on board. I'm going to tell you, the Night one I thought was good. There's some cool stories from these alternate universe. You know me, dude, I love the What If books. Those were some of my favorite comics to read. That next to the Marvel guide books, those two were my staples of, if we're on a road trip and I need something that I got to read, I would take a handful of those over a handful of X-Men or anything else, because I knew those, I could read them. I would read page to page. So I love those Elf stories. Even some of the Elf stories that they came out with, I've collected them because I thought they were really good. The one where Lois Lane dies from the baby kick and Superman goes into space, or the one where Batman is a vampire, or the one where there's a lot of great ones. Dude, I just don't get this book. I don't. You didn't read it. Fryhood didn't read it. And Mac's not going to read. I can't. And the friends I do have who read it, like, we just don't talk about it. It is weird.
This is that's part of why this is your showcase. I have no intention of ever reading this.
Don't.
So here's my thing is, and it's a problem that I've had with DC for a while now, is that the DC universe was conceived to be a bunch of different tiny little universes. Like Wonder Woman was a universe. Plastic Man was a universe. Green Lantern was a universe.
Yes.
They were all separate. And it wasn't until after the Marvel Revolution that they really started to get serious about combining
continuity.
all the universes.
Well, we've had this talk.
We've had this talk. That's why I'm doing the short version.
Okay, well, let me ask you this though. The one with Supergirl dead on the cover, that's
Crisis on Infinite Earths number 7.
Is that any good?
Yes.
So the Crisis books are good. I know George Perez artwork in there is amazing.
No, look. Here's the deal. And that's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
I think when you talk to people that read Crisis on Infinite Earths when it was coming out, 85, 86, whatever it was, they love it. Whenever I talk to somebody who tries to read it outside of that context, they usually hate it. I've tried to read it years later. I hated it. I hated reading it. I loved looking at it, and I think that the issue, like individual issues, like number 7 especially, number 7 you can read on its own, and it's a good book to read. It handles,
you don't need any context from the other book.
I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
We were going to go on a trip to Colorado where my stepfather's family lived. And so we went to a Walden Books shortly before we were going on our trip. I was still young enough that I had an Oilers jacket. You know, when I was a kid, that my main
I know where we're at.
was an Oilers jacket, right? And that was back when I still had my Nicholas Brady page boy kind of thing going on with my hair and stuff. And so I go into this place. There's a couple of younger women who were running the counter, and they just thought that I was so cute, so adorable in my Oilers jacket. They told me to go get a free comic book, right? They basically they were
Frank already fucking gaming girls, boy.
So, and that was the one I picked. And I'm sure part of the reason why I picked it is because it was a double-sized, double-cost issue, and I was poor. So I was looking at it. It looked good.
You gamed her twice, man. Nice.
Right. So that was the one I got. And so I took that with me on the trip to Colorado. We took a bus, too. So Texas to Colorado on a bus, not a good time, right? So I read the book. I thought it was fantastic. For years afterwards, I would like play with action figures and try to recreate the scope of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Especially, I would try to have like my He-Mans get involved with my G.I. Joes, which I always kept them separated, you know, because those were two different universes.
The ultimate crossover.
But there's going to be the one crossover where they're all going to get together, and it was all based on Crisis on Infinite Earths. That was the only issue I read when the books came out. That was the only issue I read new. It was years later before I read any more issues of Crisis. And I kind of read it piecemeal. I'd read an issue here, an issue there, and the other issues seemed like, yeah, they're all right. It's kind of cool. I don't really know fully what's going on, but that's cool. As I got more to the DC universe, I finally committed to reading the whole thing front to back, and it was a slog because it's so much exposition and so many characters. And the book basically ceases to be relevant as soon as it's over with because you restart the DC universe. So the journey to this new universe isn't relevant because it never happened.
Yeah.
For years, DC had this weird situation where they barely acknowledged that there even was a crisis. And when they did, they wouldn't tell you exactly what it meant to the characters. Because you had that nebulous period between year 1 and Man of Steel, where here's the heroes at the very beginnings of their careers, and then here they are X number of years later, and there's a bunch of shit that happened in the middle. And for the most part, we're just not going to talk about that. With the exception of, you had like Legends of the Dark Knight that tried to fill in a lot of the gaps between year 1 and the modern Batman stuff. And there were a lot of characters like Green Lantern and Aquaman and The Flash, where their continuities were pretty much intact. You know, you may have to downscale the powers and shit, but the stories for the most part actually happened. Where if you're a Superman fan, fuck you, nothing before 1986 happened. Get over it. We're starting from scratch. All or nothing. You know, I think that's always been DC's problem, is it's all about half measure. Either you're all the way starting from the beginning, or you're not. All these stories that people told about Superman in those years still don't count. And they're still, the prices for them were suppressed, interest in them were suppressed. Part of it, I'm sure, is because guys like Kurt Swan were drawing it, and I don't want to read fucking old ass Kurt Swan past his prime in the 70s and 80s drawing Superman. But there were supposed to be some really great stories, and I hear about those stories like, wow, that sounds awesome. And then you go and you look, and like fucking Kurt Schaffenberger drew it, and I'm like, but there's some cool concepts there. And I think if you go back and you mine like Silver and Bronze Age Superman stories, you get really great, interesting material. That's what Grant Morrison did, and that's why Grant Morrison was able to do really great, awesome. Because All-Star Superman that's got nothing to do with the Golden Age of Superman. That's a Silver Age pastiche, updated for the modern times, and people say it's the best Superman story of all time. People love the shit out of it. People love it. Okay, I never read it. I saw the movie. I didn't like the movie, but people love that book.
I've read the book. I enjoyed it. I still think the best one is the Alan Moore one.
But you're a Batman guy. You're not a Superman guy.
True.
There's two different types of people.
Wait. Well, I'm a Batman guy. I'm a Flash guy. I'm a Green Lantern guy.
Yeah, which is another point I'm trying to get to too. So the point is, though, about the Crisis number 7 is you can read that book on its own, because I did. I understood enough to get by. The art's beautiful. The story's great. It's a great story to appreciate. Marv Wolfman.
Okay.
It's a great story to appreciate Supergirl. I'm sure that helped to feed into my Supergirl fandom by having read that. I've read enough Supergirl material to know to not go, what's the greatest Supergirl story of all time? Crisis number 7? What other Supergirl stories have you read? Nothing. Or some shit where she turns up with Superman. There's some great stuff. Peter David had a years long run on Supergirl that's awesome. You still haven't read it, you ought to. You would enjoy it. But it is still one of the great Supergirl stories. And if you're not a fan of Supergirl at the beginning, there's a chance you're going to be a Supergirl fan by the end of it.
The Peter David run, or?
Huh? No, Crisis number 7.
Okay, so I will find that issue. I will read it.
Okay.
I've seen it in quarter bins all the time.
Right. But this is another example too. Marv Wolfman started his career at DC pretty much as a Superman guy. Like before he broke with Type, one of the main things he wrote was Superman stuff. And he wrote a lot of the 80s Superman. A lot of stuff's still pretty solid too, because Gil Kane drew a lot of it, and that helps a lot. It's a lot better to look at Kurt Swan. Still anachronistic for the times, but I think it still holds up well. It's still good looking books. And Marv Wolfman helped to restart the DC universe. He was one of the prime architects of what came after Crisis, and he was a Superman guy. John Byrne, of course, was a major architect of what would become the modern DC universe. He's a Superman guy. He's done Batman stories. He's fine doing Batman stuff, but if you're going to say which side of the fence he is, he's a Superman guy. Because one of the issues with DC Comics is because you have all these infinite universes, these infinite Earths. DC inherently doesn't fit together because there's too many people with too many different power levels, and it's too big and too crazy and too inconsistent. It's not Jack Kirby and Stan Lee in an office together figuring out what the universe is going to be and setting all the groundwork, and everybody builds off of that. There's no consistency. It's a mess. I think DC tends to work better when it leans into being a mess. But if you're going to try to do a Marvel-style universe out of DC, you need to be a Superman guy because you got to be able to deal with all the crazy goofball shit that's going to happen when you're trying to have guys with such disparate power levels as Superman and Batman together. And I think it always falls apart when you take a Batman guy and you try to have him do a universe spanning event because they're not geared for it, because they think in Batman terms, which is darker, which is more realistic, and you've got to have a different kind of imagination to make the whole DC universe fit into one continuity. And Batman guys aren't built for it. And with the exception of Grant Morrison, who is definitely a Batman guy, and definitely when he does JLA, you could tell that his favorite's Batman. It's the one he has the most aptitude for. But he's crazy enough and cosmic enough and has diverse enough influences that he can still handle the rest of the DC universe and do a good job with it. With Scott Snyder, he's trying to do what he thinks the DC universe is supposed to be from a Batman perspective, while also making it all about Batman to the point where the entire villain group are variations on Batman.
Yeah.
And that shit doesn't fucking work. We give Jeff Johns a lot of shit because of how derivative of Alan Moore he is. And because his particular quirks, because he wrote so much material, it really shone through. I think history's going to be kind of Jeff Johns the way that history's kind of Jerry Conway and some other guys, because Jerry Conway had a lot of quirks too. And by the time he was done at DC, everybody was sick of him and they wanted him to go away. His last years as a DC writer were not peak. And he wrote a lot of stuff that's not that great, that doesn't hold up that well. But it's usually fun. And he wrote some of the best DC stories of the Bronze Age. And that's why people still love Jerry Conway. And they sort of gloss over some of the worst material that he did. And also they reevaluate some material that was more harshly judged, because I think the Detroit Area Justice League are some fun stories. There's some bad shit in there. Mm-hmm. But overall, once you take it out of the context of these guys are supposed to be the Justice League and you just take the stories on their own, most of them are entertaining. And the characters aren't that bad. And I think that the reason why the Jeff Johns guided DC Universe, which is an age we're past now, Jeff Johns no longer steers the DC Universe. One of the reasons why it worked as well as it did for as long as it did is because Jeff Johns is a DC guy. He's a Superman guy. He's a Green Lantern guy. He's a Flash guy. He's a Justice League, Justice Society of America guy. To some degree, he's a Justice League guy. So he can handle dealing with universes. And that's why there's a lot of good stuff that Jeff Johns put out that is still well regarded today. Scott Snyder has basically made his bones on Batman. He's done some other stuff, but he's pretty much known for doing Vertigo's books like American Vampire and Batman. And they're giving him the keys to the fucking car. And you look at Metal, it's a fucking wreck from what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And currently he's doing the new Justice League book, and he's basically modeling it off of the cartoon. So you've got the Justice League of that time period. You know, Jon Stewart's in there, Hawkgirl's in there, Martian Manhunter's back. And I should be excited. I should totally be reading that shit. I should be happy that John Jones is finally back in the Justice League and all these other characters I like. And it's a more diverse Justice League. You've got more women. You've got people of color. And so I should totally be down for it. But from what I saw on Metal, and from what I keep hearing, not the least of which is that there's a theory right now that they're going to turn John Jones evil. And they're setting up him doing a heel turn and betraying the Justice League and shit. And they're doing this thing where they're collaborating between Justice League and the Titans. And both Miss Martian and John Jones are doing shit behind the scenes that's questionable. And Brian Michael Bendis had Manhunter pop up in a Superman recently where he was encouraging Superman to become authoritarian and basically turn her into a dictatorship for its own survival against the forces that are coming. And it's like, no, I'd rather my guy stay on the shelf than have somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing do the shit. And then Scott Snyder's never proven to me that he can write the greater DC universe. He seems like he's a Batman guy, and it never fucking works out when you turn a Batman guy loose. Frank Miller being one of the best examples. Here's a guy who wrote some of the best Batman comics of all time, some of the best comics of all time. You know, his Daredevil run is outstanding. But name me like a greater cosmic comic booky character that he's done where it worked, where it wasn't a fucking train wreck, where you weren't just groaning the whole time. He keeps threatening to do his great Superman story. He's supposed to be doing that, I think, for DC's Black Label finally. He's been wanting to do a Superman story for ages. What do you think how much you want to bet that book's a fucking turd?
Well, didn't he already have Superman bang Wonder Woman, have a daughter?
Yeah, and the fact is, so much of the diminishing material that's been produced about Superman over the last 30 years has been people who read Dark Knight and absorbed Frank Miller's interpretation of Superman and have been writing that guy forever. It's one of my great banes as a comic book reader and comic book fan, especially as a Wonder Woman fan, because there's so many people that try to write Wonder Woman based on how she was written in Justice League comics in the 70s, you know? Mm-hmm. And she's not that character. They warped that character in the 1970s to make her work in a bullshit wannabe pastiche of what Marvel was doing. And so they assigned all the DC characters, these fucked up, flawed personalities, arbitrarily. Steve Englehart being a prime example, but Denny O'Neil also did this too. And they just decided to make this person this personality, this person that personality, invented whole cloth to try to make them more like Marvel characters. And it was particularly ill-fitting on Wonder Woman. And people, even people like Mark Waid, who is beloved as a historian, as somebody who really knows DC Comics, you could tell that he mostly read Justice League comics, and his Wonder Woman sucked. And that's why Kingdom Come is a book that I've been unable to read Kingdom Come since it first came out, because I hated it so much by the time I got to the fourth issue, because he did such a terrible job with Wonder Woman and such a incorrect interpretation of the DC universe. And I know a lot of that was Alex Ross's fault, and a lot of it was also the fault of them never following up on Kingdom Come. I think if Alex Ross had been able to do his version of the Kingdom, you would have had a better, healthier DC universe coming out of it. But instead, grimdark DC has reigned, mostly since Dark Knight, but especially since Kingdom Come. And because of them continuing to build off of this fruit from a poisonous tree. You don't understand Wonder Woman, you write a definitive work in the modern context of Wonder Woman, and now Wonder Woman has been contaminated by your toxic bullshit that you absorbed from 70s Justice League comics.
What was Alex Ross's version?
He was going to have a series where Billy Batson, Lois Lane, Diana Prince, and Bruce Wayne, not their costume identities, were going to quietly, stealthily go through, they were going to get the same prophetic vision that the priest character from Kingdom Come got. They were going to see this possible future, and they were going to act in the present day to stop that from happening, while characters like Magog were going to suddenly come up and demonstrate that, okay, this is where this guy's going to lead us, so we're going to have to quietly stop this from happening. And we're going to solve this problem not by punching it, but by being smart and by strategizing against Magog and the rising dark tide in the DC universe. And that's not what they did. Instead, we ended up with Hyper Time, where it was like, everything happens, everything's possible. And when everything's possible, nothing's possible, you make it to where, people pretty much forgot that Hyper Time even existed. And I know the goal was to validate the work of everybody who's ever worked on, say, Superman, where all that Elias S. Magan stuff would have existed in a timeline and all be valid. But what ended up happening is everybody just ignored Kingdom, and it was another opportunity to show, hey, look, here's the Kingdom Come characters. Aren't these a bunch of great designs? And then have people decide to play around with that some more and continue to play around with the lore of Kingdom Come and perpetuating the prophecy of that book by realizing it instead of fighting against it.
I think I enjoyed that book. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've read Kingdom.
It's
I remember the side books being really
It's
good.
easier to enjoy it. Oh, you mean Kingdom Come or the Kingdom? You're talking about there were no side books for Kingdom Come. There were sequels that had side books.
Well, how about the GOG book and like those?
Yeah, but that I consider that more of a spinoff of the Kingdom.
Okay, because those were the ones I enjoyed. I like the Plastic Man one. I like the GOG one.
Okay, yeah, so the Kingdom.
Yeah, okay, the Kingdom.
Okay, so, but that's a whole other story. The point is, you need somebody who can handle the craziness of the DC universe, and these Batman guys tend to make Batman look cool and kind of not know what the fuck to do with everybody else.
I'm telling you, I still don't understand.
Scott Snyder, I think, demonstrated with Metal that he's probably one of these Batman guys who can't handle the zaniness and the inherent love and joy and benevolence of the DC universe. It's a happy place. When you do DC Comics right, it's a happy place. That's why they made these DCEU movies, and the first one to actually resonate with people was Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman was coming from a happy place. DC isn't dark. Batman is dark. There are elements of the DC universe that are dark. There are places you go. John Constantine is a guy, you go dark places with him. He exists to go to those dark places. But that's not the defining aspects of DC. DC is a happy, good place. And if you're not...
Ain't that what you got at the end of that book? That fucking happy, we're going to build the Justice League Tower.
It was a guy trying to do that because they think that's what we want, but not actually having it in their heart and not actually being able to realize it. Because when you do hundreds of pages of dark, fucked up, look at my evil Aqua Batman, and then you at the end go, oh, now we're going to put them on suits and clink glasses together. That's not what's in your heart. That's not what's on the page. You're about the dark shit, and you try to give it an up ending, but the whole story's about doing the dark shit, not about the light place, not about the optimistic place.
Well, no. They try to get optimistic. They're like, oh, the light will shine through.
Yeah, but the first thing they do when they launch
it's all about us three together.
Sure. But the first thing they do after they launch the new Justice League is, but there's these forces from another universe that are going to destroy us all unless we're willing to gird ourselves and go dark place to stop it. So, this is a very superficial reading of what I've been able to pick up about the current Justice League book, is it sounds like he's trying to rip off Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars and not so much Secret Wars, but the incursions stuff that was going on before that. Mm-hmm. And it sounds a lot like Metal, where these forces from another universe are trying to barge into the DC universe and turn it into a darker place. And we're going to get hardcore to stop them. No, pass. Hard pass. Sorry.
Yeah. So. I'm not sorry to me, dude. That's your war, man.
Yeah. No, not anymore. It's been
I'm a Marvel fanboy.
That's one of the reasons why we're invested. I've pushed Spawnometer so much in part because I'm enjoying going to a whole other place and getting away from DC and Marvel, because I I think that Marvel is in a better place than DC is right now, even though the sales aren't reflecting that. But I'm not really interested in either one of those universes. So I'm perfectly happy. I wouldn't call myself a DC guy. I feel like I'm a DC expat. It's been so long since I've read DC Comics on a consistent basis, on a monthly basis. So long since I've actually followed it as a universe that I'm very much divorced from it at this point. I
agree with you. I'm so divorced from the Marvel. I haven't read any new Marvel stuff unless it's in a trade. I mean, I just read a new Thanos stuff, and I thought it was kind of cool. And I can't think of any X-Men books I've read or any Avengers stuff I've read. Or I kind of stopped with all the Hickman stuff after all that big.
Yeah, Secret Wars kind of burned you out a little bit.
Yeah,
is he even doing Marvel stuff right now?
I have no idea.
I thought that was like his grand curtain, and he's off doing the Image stuff now.
I've been reading that. Was it Donny Cates or?
Yeah, the Thanos stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed his stuff, and that's the only stuff that I'm on a regular basis.
And that's my thing. Is there was a time where I was invested not so much in the Marvel universe, but really the X-Men sphere.
Yeah.
And then once I was gone, I would dip in every now and again, but it was a case by case basis, and I was usually not happy when I would go back. You couldn't go home again. There was a time when DC was my home. That time is long past. I will read individual books, individual projects, but overall, it's just not my home anymore. So, and then Image isn't a universe. It's a collection of different people's creator-owned properties. Most of the Image stuff I'm reading and enjoying doesn't have anything to do with any sort of universe.
Yeah.
I read titles from them. I don't read the Image universe. But I enjoy exploring those connections that they had earlier on through Spawnometer. But I mean, right now, I don't know that I really have a home in comic. And I think that's one of the issues why I'm not as excited about the comics universe and why I'm somewhat dire predictions. I don't have a home, so I don't know that I have
I just picture like this little homeless man with like comic book boxes for shoes and back issues as a blanket over you and a plastic was it the cover plastic bag over your head, and you're just like this little homeless comic book man just trying to find a home, shuffling his feet.
Well, and if you think about it too, what are we doing? We're covering Spawn. What does he do? He's a homeless guy living in an alley with a bunch of bumps. So yeah, I can see where that imagery would be easily conjured up.
I just picturing you with comic book boxes for shoes that just made me laugh. That's all. Trying to get around. So, yep, that was metal, and it was so very unmetal.
Oh, I think it was metal. I think it was hair metal. I think it was like the really bad shit that killed hair metal at the end there.
Like I said, and I know people are gonna, people probably call me out on my shit. You're like, well, you didn't read it. I tried.
Honestly, we have such a small listenership on DC
Well, no,
Special.
just my friends.
I don't think there's
other guys I know, they'll be like, well, if they heard, they're like, oh, well, you didn't invest enough in it. I'm like, dude, I could not. This was just so bad.
You should have read the Superman 2 part that explains that his singing saved the universe.
Yeah,
like, no, fuck you.
No, man. Like I said, that moment, I literally sent you the picture the moment I read that with Bruce Wayne threatening to punch him with a different.
I
sent you that. I stopped, took a picture of it, and stopped. Yeah. I couldn't read it. I had to stop reading that day. Picked it up, tried to read it again, and I got to the point where they beat the man who laughs, and then I was just like, I don't want to read this anymore. Like I'm not gonna get paid for this. Like, I'm not getting paid for this. This is not my job. And I just put it down and walked away.
I get so fucking sick of Batman fanboys with micro penises putting on their bat extension and really get across the entire fucking universe. You've already said you're not that Batman fan. I'm talking about the guys who decided Batman is the bestest character and the entire DC universe about making Batman look cool.
I like I said, when he's dealing with the Court of Owls,
fucking Infinity Gauntlet. When he puts on a gigantic Infinity Gauntlet, it's those fucking guys. I'm fuck off. Your bad penis extensions, I'm not down for it. Fuck you.
Like I said, I like when he's fighting. I was actually going back and rereading some old Batman stuff that I found, like The Cult. I liked it. I forgot that I enjoyed The Cult.
Did you reread it?
Yeah.
Man, I need to reread that shit. I need to read it.
It's good.
I want okay, don't stop. Don't talk.
Okay,
we're going to do The Cult because I would love to reread The Cult. I didn't realize you'd already reread it, so I need to go ahead and read it.
It's been about 2 months now.
Yeah, it's not that hard. I can read through. That's only 4 double-length issues.
I found, if I can find all of them, I bought it for $2 at half off.
I've got it.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I still have my original copy from the late 80s.
I reread that. I read early some, 90s? Garth Ennis had wrote some individual issues. They were pretty good. I'm trying to think. I read a Scarface story was pretty good. Matt Wagner had wrote a Two-Face story that was pretty good. Like, I have all these little, when I was really into Batman, I was collecting that stuff. And I really enjoyed that stuff. But now,
Batman's a super cop in a dark, fucked up city. And that's a good Batman.
He's the Midnighter.
And I like it. You can do James Bonds too. I like 70s Denny O'Neil, furry chested, Ra's al Ghul as a Spectre stand-in character, Blofeld. That's as big as you can get with Batman. Batman is James Bond with his own Batjet. Any more cosmic than that, and you lose me. That's because Batman doesn't belong there.
I did reread Cosmic Odyssey not too long ago and really enjoyed that again.
But that actually kind of halfway works because they don't overinflate Batman's role. It's Batman is able to exist within those confines as one normal guy amidst all these cosmic beings, but they don't oversell it.
Yeah, so that was a good read.
That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, and airplanes. And Lenny Bruce is not afraid. The 108th Sage, Alligator Fudhouse, Alley Bats, Unch, Anything Tyra, The Batgirl Podcast, Biko Django, Bill Beer, Blue Girl, Bob Van Gent, Bone Dragon Comics, Brent Rickens, Brody's Kitchen, Chris Sheehan, Chris Thompson, Coffee and Comics Blog, Columbus Comics Corner, Comic Reflections, Comics in the Golden Age, Darren and Ruth Sutherland, DCU Movie Page, Derek William Crabb, Dmitry Pimenov, Dr. G, Nerdologist, Inigo Montoya, Eric Mannix, Gaston Pugil, Gord Tolton, I Am Grant Richter, Jake and Tom Conker, James Hudson, Janella DuBois, Jeffrey Brown, John D. Noel, Joe Crawford, Justice's First Dawn, Just in Time with the J&T Baggers, Bobsta, Keketso Manai, Keith G. Baker, Leonardo M. Montero, Long Box of Darkness, Luther Lang, Mario, Mark Danvers, Matev, Maxwell Emmis, Max Romero, Mike Peacock, Minute, Obidril at Amazon, a Wonder Woman fan blog, Pass the Effin' Popcorn, Patricia Baradas, Paul K. Bisson, Peyton Bracegrove, Punch Like a Girl, Randy Caldwell, The Relatively Geeky Podcast Network, Rob at Speculum Fight, Ryan Daly, Sassy Animal, Satin Tights Podcast, Silver and Gold Podcast, Siskoid, Son of Cthulhu, Terence Castongue, Tony Asaro, Tony Wolf, Traveling With Us, Trekker Talk, Warlord Worlds, Warrior for Peace Pod, Xenozoic Xenophiles, Zeverpuths. Keith G. Baker said, "Isn't we say fuck a lot the actual tagline for this podcast?" After hearing this, I think I want to read a comic where Teenage Mutant Ninja Namer visits Thema Menstrual Island. The 108th Sage said, while obviously not a perfect movie, I thought it managed to avoid basically all of the traps I was afraid it would fall into, such as too much or not enough focus on gathering the team, Return of Superman, the final fight, setting up future movies.
The preceding program is a non-profit fan production. Any copyrighted materials contained therein are believed borrowed under fair use with no copyright infringement intended. Please feel free to leave comments at Rolled Spines Productions WordPress blog. You can also send us Twitter comments through the Rolled Spine Podcast Twitter. Thank you for listening.